Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on another video here on Info Plus. My name is Juan, and today we have a very informative video for you guys, so please stay tuned. Today I have two special guests with me. They are representatives of the organization Youth Outlook. So for those of you who are not familiar, today we're going to talk about who they are and what they provide. And I'm going to start by introducing them. So I have the executive director of Youth Outlook. Her name is Nancy Mullen. And Carolyn Wahlskog. She is the director of the operations and programming at Youth Outlook. So thank you guys so much for having this time to talk to us. How are you doing?
I'm doing well this morning. Thank you, Juan. Thank you for having us. Carolyn, how are you today?
I'm great. Working from home and the dog is barking. The mail person just arrived. So
awesome. I wanted to start by asking you guys, who is Youth Outlook? I'm not really sure how many people are in the community know about what services you guys provide, and it would be so important for us to share that information with our followers and community in general. So I don't know if any of you guys would like to start by giving us a brief explanation of who Youth Outlook is.
Carolyn, how about if I do a little historical piece and you do the current?
Sounds great.
All right. So we came together back in 1998 in DuPage County. We had really modest aspirations in the beginning that we were going to have a drop-in center for lesbian and gay kids in the western suburbs, which even back then, even we weren't talking about bisexual, transgender, non-binary kids. Our language also evolved as our kids came out. So we came together to do this project. We have since grown across multiple counties with different kinds of services, and we're no longer just in DuPage. Carolyn, would you like to tell folks what's happening?
Sure. So, and for those of you who aren't as familiar, Youth Outlook, our mission is to celebrate, empower, and support LGBTQ young people, their families, and our communities. And so since that one idea of one support group for LGBTQ youth back in 1998, now we have 14 groups that operate every week throughout 7 different counties in Northern Illinois. So we are as east as Elmhurst in DuPage County. We're also in Downers Grove, in Naperville, Palatine. We are in Ottawa, Sterling,
all over the place.
Yep, and we just opened this week in Joliet, Lockport. So we've had some drop-in centers and support groups for LGBTQ youth in Elgin and some others in Kane County that we don't have right now, but we have, due to the pandemic, we moved some of our programs virtually. So we have ways for LGBTQ youth to connect and meet other young people on Zoom every week. We have 3 different virtual groups as well.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. So how does these support groups or drop-in centers look like? Like what is the whole, what can somebody expect when they come into a group?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's like sometimes people are really nervous to come to a group for the first time because you're meeting people, or maybe you're coming by yourself and don't know any other LGBTQ youth. And so most of our drop-in centers are for youth who are ages 12 to 20. And many of them are offered in like churches that give us free space. So I always tell people we're not religiously affiliated, but we often host our groups. When we were in Elgin, we hosted at the YWCA. But what you can expect is fun, right? And community. And so our groups are not therapy. They're like a space for young people to meet other young people, to talk with other youth who are in the process of coming out or want to meet other queer and trans people. And we do different programs each week. So a lot of them have to do with art. We can do things about knowing your rights. Sometimes people tell coming out stories, or just really talk about like, what's it like to be an LGBTQ person in 2022? So this is what it's like to go to the doctor. This is what it's like to be out in school, and just giving young people a space.
So in regards to, I like the word that you used, community, when I said what to expect and you said community, which I love it because sometimes that's what they need, or we need in general. It's just somebody that you feel welcome with, and someone or a space that you just feel that that's your safe space. So how can these people, this youth, connect with you guys in regards to calling or emailing? How do they connect with with you guys?
It really depends. So you don't have to like pre-register. You can just show up. That's why we call it kind of a drop-in. But sometimes people have questions or families have questions. A lot of parents are like, I want my young person to meet other people who have similarities to them. And so all of our different centers have a site leader that's there every single week. And we list all of their email addresses on our website. So people can either email me or they could email the site leader directly. Sometimes people message us on Instagram or Facebook with questions. So we try to have like a lot of different ways for people to reach us.
Awesome.
The other thing I always want to make sure people know is that our groups are completely free. They don't cost anything to attend. So like as Nancy said, you can come as often as you want. Some people come every single week for 2 years. Some people come for a little bit, feel like they make some friends, and then go off in the world and hang out with those people.
So aside from that service, I understand that you guys do a lot of, community education. And how does that work?
Carolyn, can we do history and then do current again? So we realized really quickly after we launched the agency back in the late 90s that it wasn't going to be enough just to have drop-in center space. We also needed to affect some change in the systems that our kids were navigating during the day, whether it was their school system or their neighborhood or their community of faith. So we started doing some education around the needs and the resources that we were seeing for LGBT young folks. And that has kind of snowballed over the last couple of years and turned into what Carolyn's about to tell you.
Yeah. So again, like as Nancy said, like you get to be like in this safe and brave space 2.5 hours a week, in each of our different locations, but you still have to go to school, like go to the doctor, all those places. And so we offer what we call community education and professional development. So sometimes we're visiting schools like Aurora University and talking to future teachers about what it's like to be an LGBTQ person in the world. So we do, or maybe we'll go to a church or another faith congregation and help people understand what it means to be queer, what it means to be trans, that type of thing. And then a lot of the work that I do and Nancy does is we work with schools on what we call like a roadmap to truly inclusive schools for LGBTQ young people, where depending on how much time that school has, we'll work with their administrators, their teachers, other people that are involved with young people on how to create a safe and inclusive classroom. And in Illinois, we've recently passed a couple different bills around teaching inclusive curriculum about LGBTQ people from history and teaching comprehensive and inclusive sex ed. So, but like a lot of us didn't learn about who those like famous people were from history, including our teachers. So we do a lot of work to support educators on learning who those like positive role models were so that they can then share those with young people.
I like that you bring that specific topic because I don't want to dig in too much into the dark side of the whole topic, but I know there's been struggles within the LGBT community, and there still are. We still have a lot of stigma. There's still a lot of, misconceptions and all that stuff. How hard has it been for you guys to advocate for the community, and have you guys seen an improvement at all, or has it stayed the same? How has that worked for you guys?
I would say more we've seen the pendulum swing both back and forth. Carolyn?
Yeah, I think there's this idea now that everything's better for gay people, right? After marriage equality passed, and we have so many representations of like gay characters on TV. So people think like, oh, it's fine now. And so sometimes I say 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. While Illinois doesn't necessarily have some of those particularly harmful bills working their way through, I always say like our young people aren't immune to sitting and watching on TV people debate their identities and whether or not they should be allowed to exist in this world and have rights. And so I think we were already concerned when going into the pandemic because of isolation. When we know that LGBTQ youth experience like depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation at higher rates than straight or cisgender kids. And so add the pandemic to that, and then add anti-LGBTQ sentiments. In some ways it's not a great time. And then in other ways, we are seeing like more pride events than ever, right? And like so many different towns creating pride events, drag queen story hours at their library, like all those different types of things. And so again, it's a mixed bag. There's a lot of places to connect and still a lot of work to do.
I would echo what Carolyn said about that myth that everything is so much better now, because it's not just seeing that in the community. We're also sometimes hearing that from like our funders who don't, they don't specialize in funding LGBT issues. They're more of a general funder or a community funder. And I have been asked by funders in the year after marriage equality passed, why do we need to continue to fund your group? Marriage is legal. What else do you need? And I just sat there kind of scratching my head going, we don't have too many 12-year-olds who are exercising their right to get married. We still need to build this community. We still need to do a lot of education. Just the fact that you're asking me that question tells me how much education we still need to do.
With all these issues going on, there's a lot of mental health, problems arising, and these are not new things. And what are the needs? What is it specifically that we are still not doing as a community, and what can we do?
I would take the broad view and then let you narrow in, Carolyn. Okay, so I've been in the field of social work for 35 years. We're still struggling to have conversations with some of the schools of social work around working with LGBT people. It's not a topic that is in every curriculum, and sometimes if it's in a curriculum, it's the one day that LGBT issues are discussed. We need to do more education for the folks who are coming out of schools of social work, out of counseling programs, out of psych programs, that they have a better grasp of the population and the needs and the resources. So that's kind of the big picture. Carolyn, you want to talk about some of the specifics of what our folks are finding?
Sure. And it's hard for me to disentangle like physical health and mental health, because access to affirming services across healthcare, whether it's for your mental health or physical health, is something that we need. Nancy and I recently were holding some listening sessions for LGBTQ people across like the western suburbs and more rural areas. And a lot of people just talked about it's really hard to find a therapist or a mental health provider that has been trained in working with queer and trans people. Or there might be people that have good intentions but don't have a lot of experience. And then most of the people who are highly trained only take like very nice insurance plans, right? And so there are really long wait lists for people with Medicaid or people with HMO health plans, things like that. Like on the physical health side, we don't have a lot of doctors that have had a lot of experience working with queer and trans people because they didn't learn about it in medical school, just as we didn't learn about LGBTQ people from history and in school. It is a tough time right now, I think, in terms of getting access to care, period, and then getting access to like affirming healthcare.
Right. And it's really important that we make awareness about these issues, because not a lot of people are aware of what's going on, and therefore some people, like you said, they might have the right intentions or everything, but they don't really know how to advocate for others. And when they get to find out this is what's happening, then they might be able to have an idea, oh, maybe I can do this to help them out. So thank you.
Right. And I would, add to that, like when you also look at the intersections of other identities, right? So we're not just like for LGBT folks of color, LGBT folks who speak Spanish, LGBTQ folks who are undocumented, right? Like finding a therapist who specializes in both of those things, right? Or can be really hard to have someone. So sometimes you don't get to bring your whole self.
I know that next month, May, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And you guys probably have a couple of events going on in regards to that. The month after that, it's June, which I know it's an important probably month for you guys as well, Pride Month. What are the events for people to look into for these upcoming months? Or are there any plans of doing things for awareness?
In terms of Pride, you could do something every single weekend of June and find connection and community. So for June, we do a lot of partnering events. So you'll find Youth Outlook at pretty much any Pride event in the western suburbs. We will be at with a table talking about our services. We will be walking in the Aurora Pride Parade on June 12th. which we're so happy. A lot of Pride parades were canceled for the past couple of years due to COVID. So they're back this year with a Pride parade and a community fair. So you can find us there to learn more about our work. Later in the summer, we're bringing back what we call our LGBTQ Youth and Family Picnic, which will be on August 27th. So, follow us on social media to learn more about that. And, if you want to come hang out with the Youth Outlook staff and support our cause, in May, we're doing an event which we call Sports Ball. As not all of the big sporty people that we are. We'll be at Top Golf in Naperville on May 22nd. And just as a fun time to meet other, LGBTQ people and allies and support the work that we're doing.
I wanted to ask if any of you guys would like to share any, I don't know if I want to call it advice, but opinion, if there's anybody out there watching this and still struggling a little bit about not only coming up, but accepting themselves and wondering about what's going on with their bodies, with their minds, with their, attractions to people, but they're still not sure of how to approach. They're still not sure to how to talk about it. They're still not sure of, should I bring it to my mom, to my dad? What do you guys think about this specific area of people, and what would you say to them?
I would think try not to rush it. The process takes as long as the process takes, and we all come to that understanding of ourselves in different time frames and in different ways. So just be very gentle with yourself. There are folks out here who will support you. Youth Outlook and Center on Halstead and the other LGBT community centers. We will do whatever we can to lend a hand. So just let the story unfold. Carolyn?
Yeah, so I think there's a myth that there's not support for LGBTQ people in the suburbs. And I think we've spent a lot of time with a lot of our partners to create a lot of places to connect. So one, if you are trying to figure out your orientation or your identity, you're not the only one. As Nancy said, it'll take as long or as short, but never feel like you have to come out to somebody, and never feel like you can't, right? If you're looking for support outside of Youth Outlook, maybe you're older than our age range, PFLAG is also a really great place, which stands for Parents, Families, and Friends of LGBTQ People. And they have tons of different groups that meet throughout Northern Illinois. And I think you will find your people, whether it's going to an out bowling event, whether it's just showing up to a Pride group, people are so excited to welcome you into the fold. And I think the other thing for families who are watching, we recognize that it can be scary, right? This might be, it's not that you're not accepting of your child, but you may be afraid of the way the world will treat them, right? And that's really normal. And so, there's resources. We can recommend books. We can get you connected to other parents who've walked a similar road as you, so that parents also know that they're not alone, right? One of the things that we didn't talk about is that we also do a parent support group that meets on Zoom every Wednesday night. And so sometimes transportation is an issue. Your kids are in a bunch of different activities, but if you can pop on, we're on every Wednesday from 7 to 8. And it's a way to meet other parents who have teenagers as well. And then if that group's not right for you, we have a lot of other different groups for families that we can recommend.
That's amazing. Yeah, so definitely for people who are watching, feel free to reach out. The support is there. So why not, make it a little bit easier for you and take the support that it's available. I would like to give you the opportunity to say some final words to the community about, the organization, the services that you guys provide. Any final comment that you guys would like to share with us?
I would say kind of our tagline at Youth Outlook: you're safe, you're supported, and you're celebrated.
Awesome. Nancy, any final words from you?
Once you get settled into yourself, this really is a lot of fun.
I like that one. Good job. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate this time, and I really hope that we can break stigmas with this, that we can build bridges, and that we can support each other, because we need it. We definitely need to be more, together. We need to make sure that we make positive changes. So thank you for all the work that you guys are doing, and thank you for allowing us to speak to you guys today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Juan. Have a good weekend.
Nice to meet you too. Bye-bye.